Hello, my name's Compass. Welcome to part 6 of my beginner's guide to the Metropolix sequencer from Intellijel. So, we have covered a lot of the functionality, still only using one track, and my setup has changed slightly again. I have inserted a Pico drums module here, and I'll just talk you through the setup. So, currently, as normal, we are going forward. We are using all 8 stages with 16 pulses. We are in normal division by 1. I have added a tiny bit of swing, 55%. I have set it to the acid slide and a little bit more than standard, and I have shortened the gate time. If you've watched my other videos, all of that should make sense to you. I have also set up this completely independently. So previous videos I've been using my Roland TR8S to do the drums. This time I thought that we would use the internal clock. We are set at 127 BPM, and I am using mod lanes 1. Go to mod lane 1. We're using mod lane 1 to send 2 gates on the first and the 5th beat of the bar into the Pico drums, track 1, which will be doing a kick drum. And we are using mod lane 2 on steps 3 and 7 into track 2. So mod lane 1 I'm sending via the A output jack into the trigger input of the drums. That is the bass drum, kick drum, and mod lane 2 I'm sending out of the B jack here through this cable into and triggering the second one. So all of the sounds, all of the timing are coming completely from here. And today we are going to focus on these 3 buttons here, the transport section. This should be, I think, the shortest video so far of the series. These are relatively straightforward. We have a run button, we have a loopy button, and a reset button. And as with all functions on Metropolix, we have a couple of kind of hidden functions within this. Unless I'd read the manual, I don't think I'd have ever found these functions. So I will talk you through those as well. So firstly, let's get on to the run button. If I just exit there. Now, obviously, this is relatively straightforward. You press it and it runs, and you press it again and it stops. There are actually 2 functions, and it is worth just going through this because certainly in my version of the manual, it doesn't work as it says in the manual. At least the menu is different to the one in the manual. So standard way, I think, is run pause. So you press run, and if you look at the square cycling on the top lane track 1, track 1, if I press run again, it'll pause here on step 7. And if I press it again, it'll start on step 7. Just keep going. Now, personally, I don't like that. I would rather when I press run, it resets and we start on the first beat of the bar every time, and you can change that. So if you go into the setup menu, which is here, and you scroll all the way down to the one that says UI setup, and this is where it differs from the manual, there is a run button, which is either on run pause, which is what it's currently set on, or if you press it in, it goes to run stop. I believe, even though that doesn't quite make sense to me, it should be run reset. If I now exit and press run, we are obviously running, and if I pause it again, okay, this time on step 6, if I press it now, it should reset back to step 1 and then run from step 1. Which it does. And that is how I would like this to work. So that's pretty much all there is to say about run. And we've also sort of covered reset, because if you didn't have it on that function, every time you paused it, you would need to press reset to get back to the first step and then press run. You can, of course, trigger reset externally. There is a reset jack here, which is just hidden actually, but you can have it constantly running, and then you send it a signal every 2 bars, or if you're doing different tracks with different lengths to them, then you could reset the whole thing every 4 bars, so it kind of starts to stay in sync. Okay, so that is the run button. Now, the first of the secret functions is actually a mute function, which again, I wouldn't know. Obviously, very useful. You can mute track 1, track 2, or any of the mod lanes. So what you do, at the moment, we are just hearing track 1, and I have mod lanes 1 and 2, which are going to my Pico drums, muted. If you hold down the Loopy button, and you see that you can then mute track all the yellow buttons there, so track 1, track 2, all the mod lanes, or each individual mod lane. And when it's on red here, these two are muted. So if I press this button, you'll be able to hear the kick drum. And there we go. I'm going to keep it quite quiet so that we can hear what I'm talking about, but it does sound pretty good. And then I have a sort of offbeat sort of hi-hat on mod lane 2, which if I unmute, just turn down. So there, that is our drums. Obviously not very complicated, but it does have lots of different sounds in this awesome little module. And it's nice just to have it all kind of self-contained. Obviously it's not very extensive, but I have space here and may well get another one. Then you can have 4 drums. I would need some other way of triggering them, but at least that would then give you 2 voices. You'd have a bass probably from here, you'd have 4 drum sounds, and then maybe a lead here, which we haven't got onto, with Endorphin's Godspeed, which is going to be on track 2, a future video. So I'll just turn the drums down. To be honest, I don't want the domino too loud either. Okay, so out of the 3 buttons, we've covered run, we've kind of covered reset, and we've covered mute. Loopy is a really fun feature where if you press it, you get these kind of colourful lights, sort of purple and pink. It's not doing anything now, you've just entered Loopy mode, and if you look on the screen, you have 2 functions. I think it's set on, it says loop pulses 5. I think originally when you first go onto it, it'll say auto actually. And you have a choice of current track or both tracks. So when you first go into it and it's set to auto, what Loopy does is if you press one of these buttons, it will repeat that step for as long as you hold the button. So I have step 1 set to be a long pulse for 1 pulse count. But if I hold this, it's just going to keep going. So you get a sort of sustained note. If I do one that is slightly different, so the second one is on 2 pulses and it is on multiple, so this will just keep going. So, you know, quite cool. I'm not sure how much you'd want just to repeat 1 note. And that's what you can do. They call that in the manual 1-finger looping, and you can do 2-finger looping, which is where you hold 2 steps and it will loop between the 2. So if I hold button 1, we have 1 pulse, then we have 2 on the second one, we have 1 on the third and 1 on the fourth. So that is 5 pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I hold these 2 buttons at the same time, you can see on the lights, we're basically just cycling through these 4 steps. Now that is more interesting. If I take 1 finger off, it does the 1-finger thing, and I can just keep going to different. Doesn't have to be the first step. Now that is a lot more fun in order to create a bit of variety. You're obviously still using the same notes, but a different rhythm and different sections within. So I think that is quite interesting. What I have found to be more useful is if you select the pulses here to whatever you want, maybe 4 pulses. Given that I like to keep things in time, maybe 8 pulses. Then by setting that, you don't need it effectively does this sort of 2-fingered looping, but you only need 1 button, 1 finger. So if I press step 3, it will then count up 8 pulses and then loop that little section. So it'll go, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it'll do 1 pulse on 8. and then because there were 2, so that would be 9, so it'll go up to there and then back, and we won't hear steps 1 and 2 at all. Because I've got 8 beats, it's still in time with my drums. Now that, I think, is pretty cool. And obviously you can do, so you get these different beats. I think that's really good already. And if you were either playing live, jamming live, or recording all of this, you could just get these different little sections. You can, of course, reduce it, and then have a smaller subsection. And then coupled with playing with, filter, you suddenly get a totally different groove, and suddenly this could be part of the drum track. And then if I do this kind of thing which we did before, where it's a sort of kind of a tom sound. Or even a sort of zap. I just think it sounds really good, this. You suddenly get a whole kind of percussion thing going on. Can you imagine if you've got track 2 playing some sort of melody at the same time? I think 4 pulses is not enough. Okay, so that is basically Loopy, and we could stop there. It is worth just mentioning that some of these functions can also be automated on the mod lane. So if we say go to mod lane 3 and set it to Loopy, this will turn Loopy on whenever the gate is high. So at the moment Loopy is off. If we make this mod lane shorter, say 1 stage in fact, so it's only 1 stage, the first one, and it's low. So now we have turned Loopy on, and we have set, it will honour the stages that we set here, so it's doing 8. So it's a way of, I guess, automatically so that is Loopy off. That is Loopy on. And there are other things you can do on the mod lanes as well. So if we went to mod lane 4, yes, and changed it to, I think there are 3 different types. There's pulses and offset. So if you did mod lane 4 pulses, then you could, I think it's set to 8. I think you can reduce it on a per step basis. Now Loopy's currently off, so it's not going to make any difference at the moment. Let's also make that 4, so each one of those is actually, so this now, mod lane 4 is now 4 beats long, and mod lane 3 is the 1, which is the on and off. So at the moment we have no looping. Now it is looping, and it's changing the number of pulses. It's quite hard to see what's going on here. You see that we're just going between certain steps now, because it depends when we turned it on, right? backwards. Yeah, it's quite hard to work out what's going on because you can't see exactly when you're basically turning Loopy on whenever this one is high. We're obviously going between these two steps at the moment, but if we go to mod lane 4, I guess we are. We're changing. Yeah, so I mean, again, this is one of those where it's quite hard to work out what's going on when you start using the mod lanes to modulate this kind of stuff. I think it's much easier in this particular case to ignore the fact that you can, unless you're wanting to go for some crazy kind of accidents, to ignore the mod lanes and actually just do it manually. So yeah, it's very clear. You can see the pulses going along, and you can, if you've got it set onto the 8 pulses, you can see the 8 pulses going. It's much easier to work out what's going on and find some sort of rhythm that you like, or reduce it. Okay, so I said that there were a couple of hidden features in the transport section, one of which is the mute function, which we've been through, where if you hold the Loopy button, you can then mute any of the tracks. The second one, which again, I'm not sure exactly how useful it will be, but if you stop the sequencer going and go into Loopy mode, you'll notice that these buttons are not the kind of purple rainbow type colors that they were when the sequencer is running. They are blue, and in this mode you can actually play each slider individually. So you can play it, I guess, sort of live. If you went to current track, and then I guess you can, I think we're in the scale of A, aren't we? So if you turn the encoder when it's on the home screen, you can get, we're in A minor, you can actually see the notes that you're selecting. So if you go to, I can then choose each one. So that's then B, A, B, so C, A. So if we A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, yes. So we now have a scale. So you can then play it. But you can't have the sequencer running. So if I then press the sequencer, it's going to play these notes, but according to the pulse count and the gate type that I've already set. So anyway, so yeah, sort of slightly random, but yeah, one of those hidden features. Let me know if you think it could be useful. I'm not too sure, but again, something that you wouldn't have found out unless you'd read the manual or watched this video, in fact. All very interesting. And I think I'm going to call it a day there. We have done run, we have done loopy, and we have done reset. And as promised, shortest video so far. We still have a few functions to go through.